Well, hey, Life Group Leaders, it's Jared Rumley. I'm the campus pastor at the Clovis campus and wanted to spend some time with you today to talk about personalities. We are interesting creatures as humans. We're made up differently. By now you know the people in your life group think differently and act differently than you do. And that's okay. That's God's design. You think all the way back to Genesis when God said, let's make man in our image, and He did the same with woman. That there was a uniqueness to each and every one of them. Just like a thumbprint is unique to each one of us, our personalities are unique as well. But what we've found over the years is that there's some benefit to understanding personalities. Not in a psychological, let's fix everybody to a certain way, or let's label somebody that they can never operate out of, but understanding personalities, especially in a group dynamic, will really help you as a leader, will really help you handle situations, handle conflict, speak and lead the group in certain ways. The personality assessment that we really love here at the Well Community Church is called Your Unique Design. You could find all about it online at www.youruniquedesign.com, and they have a place there where you can take the assessment for a small fee and you get the results back. And even some of our staff, almost all of our campus pastors and many of our staff are trained to help people process it. We use it in every one of our staff hires. We use it in every one of our premaritals. And we use it as for different leaders at times to help them understand. It's a part of our discovery process as well. It was originally created to help see how astronauts were going to handle themselves in situations in space. But there was a couple gentlemen who took the assessment from Tabby Kaithler and really modified it with a ministry perspective and came up with new words to describe, with an illustration and how the graphic is presented to the individual to help them understand. Now there'll be some things you see on this video that'll help you, but when it comes to your unique design, the first thing to understand is that you're a makeup of all the parts within it. You're going to see a graphic that looks like a little house structure, as we call it, and there are parts to that house structure that will help you understand where your bents are, but you first need to understand all the components in your unique design make up who you are. You just have bents or greater amounts of energy to give certain areas. You're wired to operate foundationally at some of those areas. If you're looking at the house structure and you see the bottom of it, you'll see what's called the basement. This is where you operate naturally most of the time in your life. In unique design, there are 6 areas that they come up with. There are achievers, harmonizers, persisters, catalyzers, dreamers, and that's it. 6 of them. Harmonizer, achiever, persister, dreamer, catalyzer, energizer. And you're a makeup of all those. You just have different energies at time to give to some of those. At your base, it's going to be how you operate most of the time. And you'll understand people's base in your group because that's how they operate. Now there's more explanation for another time. Grab a campus pastor or staff to really unpack what each of those are. But to know that your group's going to have a bent. And if someone is a base persister, for example, they're probably going to be very opinionated. Persisters look through the grid of black and white. They think about right and wrong often. They usually have very strong opinions about morality, about politics, about life in general. They're usually quick to debate, quick to argue. And the way you help a persister is speak to the higher value that you both share in common and learn how to have conflict there. Conflict with a persister is going to be very different than with a harmonizer. Harmonizers are feeling oriented. They'd rather have peace in the room than have conflict. So when you understand some of those things and those components like that, you're going to know how to operate in your group. The base of who you are is who you are most naturally, what you operate with the most amount of energy, the easiest for you to do. As you work up in the model, you'll get towards your attic. And much like us who have homes, we don't go to our attic very much unless we need a particular thing. It takes a lot of energy and time to get that thing out of there. And in our personality, we have attic parts to us as well that we don't go too often, and when we do, they're draining. And so if you're asking people in your group to operate out of one of their personality strengths in their attic, it may be difficult for them. And you've got to think people learn differently, experience differently as well when it comes to their personality. They may need different types of questions than the ones you're familiar with as a leader. You may need to address conflict differently to help them understand that you see their vantage point differently. It's been shown over time through studies that there are people who've taken this profile, your unique design in the Tabby Kaithler model, and used it to their advantage. In fact, one of the stories that I've read, and having been and lived in Arkansas for some time, there was a guy in particular from there who was a master at understanding these personalities, and he was a master at engaging with people based on their personality strengths. He could quickly meet a person. He could identify where they're at and what their personality strengths are, and then he would change his speech and actions towards them. Could it be used for manipulation? To be determined. There's probably a dark side of every personality assessment. But this guy's name was Bill Clinton. He was a former president of the United States of America. And if you've heard it ever said about them, he had the ability just to engage you in a room, and he could work a room and know people in a room. It's because he understood personalities, the value they have in speaking towards a person's bent. I think the same, if used with a gospel lens, with a Bible filter in some ways, will help us understand that we are one body with many parts. That we don't all think and act and do alike. There is similar hopes we have. Jesus Christ, His death, burial, and resurrection. The thing He asks us to do as a church, the commands He gives His people. But sometimes how those play out differ based on our personality. And as a life group leader, I would really encourage you to dive in with your coach, to dive in with a staff, maybe even take a time when your life group will understand your unique design and maybe take the assessment, and that person could come to your group and maybe share the results. And maybe it could be eye-opening to understand you operate differently and people have different bents. What I found is there's a lot of freedom when you come to understand your personality. There's a lot of freedom that helps in the interaction with people when you realize your strengths, your weaknesses, your easy operations versus the harder ones. So with that, that's the unique design model in a 30,000-foot view as a life group leader. I really encourage you to do the legwork to figure it out. We want to make time for that. We really believe in it, and a lot of us are trained. So email us, give us a call at the church office, and we'll set something up. Looking forward to your time as a life group when you can discover how personalities and their interactions will benefit your group.